Recording now. Let me get my PowerPoint up. Thank you for your patience, everyone. Yeah. Or when I start this, for some reason you're not seeing it or it stops showing, just hop on the microphone and speak in and let me know. Okay, so my name is Lee Floyd. I'm a doctoral student here at Angelo State in the PsyD program of Doctorate of Psychology. I also work for the university now. I serve as a coordinator for UCPC, or University Programming Center. And so today I'm here to offer a presentation on the impact of social media on our mental health. Now, what I offer you today is simply suggestions to possibly help. They're not solutions to a problem that may exist, because this is really a thing that is much more personal and something that is determined by the person ultimately. But social media does have some impact and can have some very negative impact on our lives in the area of mental health. And so I'm going to kind of jump in and walk us through that just a little bit. So humans have an impulse and a desire to connect. We want to be heard. We want to hear from others. Our desire is to be known, and we want to know others. We have a desire for connection. This desire to know and to be known and know others has fueled the evolution of the internet, more specifically, the evolution of social media. And so the dictionary will define social media like this. It calls it a form of communication or forms of communication, like a website for social networking or microblogging, through which users create online communities in order to share information. They share information, they share ideas, they share personal messages, and other content like videos. So that's just a general definition of that. So these forms of electronic communication have materialized for us. They've become things like Facebook, Snapchat, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter. Other popular sites right here in the US include WhatsApp, Reddit, and Pinterest. But what is the footprint that these things leave? What is the digital footprint, if you will? What is the global presence that social media has on us? So let's take a look at it. So a site called Data Reportal. It is a data collecting base for organizations that seek to market products. And so on this site, it tells us that across the world, there are 4.7 billion social media users. This makes up 59% of the world population. And then it's also 93% of all internet users are on social media. So when you look at this number, 93% of the 4.7 billion people are spending their time on social media. So when you just consider the population 13 and above, it's 75% of that total population is on the internet. Here in the US, that's the legal age. So it's supposed to be the legal age that most people can enter into a social media platform. Out of this, average number of social media platforms that they're on are 7.4 different platforms that a person's on. I'm not sure how you're on a 0.4 platform, but apparently we are. So we have 4.7 billion people use the 7 platforms to interact with people, and they're spending almost 2.5 hours a day on at least 1 or 2 platforms. How are they using that time? 3 ways. Top 3 ways they're using that time are keeping in touch with family and friends, which is one of the main purposes of social media. Filling spare time. Don't know that was the main purpose for social media. And then reading news stories. Again, another big role that social media plays. Those are the top 3 ways that they're spending their time, that 2.5 hours on a social media platform. So what if we break it down just to the US? In the US, you have 333.9 million people. Of that population, 270 million are on social media. That is 80% of the population. And within that, they're spending on the internet, they're spending 7 hours a day just on the internet. Of that 7 hours a day, 2 hours, 14 minutes are spent on a social media platform. Over the course of the last 8 years, from January 2014, we had 178 million social media users. In 2022, we had 270 million social media users. That's a jump of 12.5% in usage. That's the largest increase since about 2016, 2017. I think what was happening there in 2016 or 17, smartphones got better and all the apps got better, especially at the social messaging. So Facebook Messenger, the messaging part of Snapchat, the messaging part of Instagram all got better around this time. So you saw an increase in the usage, and then lately have an increase in the usage. Not really, can probably attribute it to a couple of things, increases in Snapchat and probably TikTok, which we'll see a little more about here in just a little bit. So how are Americans using social media? How do they compare to the rest of the world? They're keeping in touch with family and friends. They're filling their spare time, and they're finding content. So news stories, basically, I'm with that. So let's take it another step. What if we look at just college students? It's real difficult to find data that just expressly has college students in it. But when you look at the age group of 18 to 29-year-olds, you can capture the large majority of college students and their uses of social media. So 84% are on at least one platform. This is the largest population in America on social media, these 18 to 29-year-olds, the largest group. 95% of them are on YouTube, 71% are on Instagram, 70% on Facebook, 65% on Snapchat, 48% on TikTok. All right. Now, parse it down a little bit more. 18 to 24-year-olds. Here are the three main ones: Instagram, Snapchat, and TikTok. Now, TikTok is on the rise. Matter of fact, since I started this research last week, information I was allowed to have, now TikTok has surpassed the other top two. There are 133 million Americans, so this includes everybody, all Americans on TikTok. That surpasses Instagram at 123, surpasses Snapchat at 92 million. So you have 84% of people who are 18 to 29 years old using social media. The average person in this age group is spending at least 2 hours. Some college students, and some reports, are showing up to 3 hours, and some college students will self-report has constant use on a social media platform. And this time is spent on multiple platforms. So why does this matter? What kind of impact then does this have on our mental health, on just our health in general? Here's the thing. Social media is here to stay. There are pros and cons to its use. Pros, it does help us connect with family and friends, especially if we go over large distances. It can help us do that. There's a lot of entertainment and information out there. There's research that you can do, self-branding. It's easy to share your opinions and photos. It has increased the participation in college life. Social media groups has shown that it has put an uptake in college life and its people's involvement in it. Matter of fact, the biggest way that we advertise our events on campus is through social media. We still do the physical print stuff, but it's still primarily through social media that we send out and get the word out about our events. But the negatives: you have mental health with anxiety and depression, cyberbullying, harassment, fear of missing out, FOMO, social isolation, false impression of others and of self, poor academic performance, and then sleep disturbance are some of the largest negatives that we're having happen with mental health. So let's look at it a little more specifically. So between 2008 and 2020, there was an increase, a 40% increase in the number of 18 to 29-year-olds reporting a mental health issue. So a couple of things happened within this time frame that lend itself to show that social media does play a role in this. It's probably not the only role in it, but it does play a role. So your first smartphone came out in 2007 as the first smartphone. Over the course of that time, you had all social media platforms develop apps that became very, very good at messaging and interaction with a social media platform. Matter of fact, I couldn't find the data for it, but I'm willing to guess that the way most of us interact with any social media is through our phone. And so because of the convenience of it and the constantly being on us and with us, we see this uptake between 18 and 29 years, again, the largest population that is even on social media. So these mental health issues are resulting from sleep disturbances, online harassment, poor body image, poor self-esteem. All of these lead to depressive symptoms, and they're strongly linked to social media use. Other mental health issues, we have an increase in stress levels, increase in anxiety, reduced relationship quality. They're all strongly linked to social media use. Increase in depressive symptoms, suicide-related outcomes, and suicide rates have a strong link to social media use. So here's some more specific things when it comes to just how it impacts us on a day-to-day basis in specific areas. So attention and cognition. The level of social media use on a given day is linked to significant correlated issues in memory failure the next day. So social media use, prolonged social media use can impact our long-term memory and our short-term memory. 75% of screen content is viewed for less than 1 minute. According to a study that tracked the number of computer multitasking across the course of one day, it indicated that people switched content every 19 seconds. And so the biological analysis of this demonstrates that participants are experiencing a high every time they switch. So the constant scrolling, seeing something new, that's how TikTok, you constantly scroll through the 7 seconds to 8 seconds, getting to the next thing, creating a neurological high. Meta-analysis over several dozen research studies indicated the higher levels of switching between different media channels is significantly linked to lower levels of working memory and long-term memory. So it starts affecting how we remember. Our physical and mental health. 1 month away from Facebook led to significant improvement in emotional well-being. In a study of 1,600 American adults who normally use Facebook for up to 1 hour, they deactivated their Facebook accounts, and it led to a significant increase in their emotional well-being, a reduction in loneliness, an increase in happiness. The greater level of Facebook addiction, the lower your brain volume. So this was pretty fascinating to me. An MRI brain scan of Facebook users demonstrated significant reduction in gray matter, correlating with their addiction to Facebook. This pruning away of the brain matter is similar to the type of cell death that you see in cocaine addicts. Young men exposed to social media show an increased tendency to physically objectify themselves. So a study of 300 men, 17 to 25, indicated that their frequency of visiting celebrity, fashion, and personal grooming sites was correlated with a significant increase in their social appearance anxiety and monitoring their own body shape. So in turn, this was linked to an increased idolization of lean, muscular body types, but without any effort to obtain that. And so it increased the anxiety that was part of it. So you see this same stuff. We've seen a ton of studies on females in this, especially teenage girls. This is significant as well. In social relationships, 2 times the number of children under age 14 spend nearly twice as long with tech devices, up to 3 hours and 18 minutes, as they do in conversations with their families, which is just a little bit under 2 hours. Parental use of mobile devices during playtime with their children led to significant levels of child distress. This last study indicated that the infant showed greater unhappiness, fewer positive emotions, and were significantly less likely to play with toys when their mothers looked at their devices for as little as 2 minutes. So we're so distracted by our phones that often we fail to see the most basic things, sometimes at great cost. So an event happened, I believe back in 2012 or 13. A security camera footage caught a San Francisco public transit individual. He takes out a handgun. He handles his gun multiple times without anyone noticing because they all had their heads down in their phones. This man eventually shot a passenger. People who took photos to share on Facebook experienced less enjoyment and less engagement with the scene compared to those who took photos purely for their own pleasure. So you look at this study closer, it indicates that taking photos to share on social media increases the user's focus on their own identity and presentation and distracts them from really connecting with the world around them. I ran out of time. I wanted to find one picture. There's one picture of a golf tournament, professional golf tournament, and the golfer had hit the ball towards the edge of the fairway, and so there's many people kind of gathered around him watching him shoot his shot. And so he's there getting ready to make a swing of his club, and there's a pan of the crowd. All of the crowd, except for one individual, all the crowd has their phone out, and they're filming it. And there's one guy standing there, I think it was a Budweiser, holding his Budweiser, and he's the only one watching, just experiencing the moment where everybody else was there recording the moment. And the data shows us that this distraction causes us not to connect with the experiences we're having, but rather just to completely miss them and their benefit. So another study puts it this way: the more time we spend on screens, smartphone, tablet, computer, using social media, the more likely we are to report a mental health issue. Those who spent no time on screens or non-screen time activities like your homework or in-person social interactive, print media, exercise were less likely. So the more time on a screen usually leads to higher opportunity or higher rates of people reporting a social media or a mental health issue. So the key component to all of this, though, has to do with time. It's not just the social media aspect of itself, it's the time that's actually spent on this. So there's a threshold that exists with it. So spending 30 minutes to 1 hour a day on social media sites seems to be the threshold. Once we get to that 1 hour, that seems to be where it's not having the effect that it's having on most people who are using it now. Self-reported well-being begins to drop after 1 hour. So after 1 hour on social media, a self-report, your feeling about your own well-being begins to drop. Significantly drops at 2 hours. One study found that limiting social media use to 10 minutes per platform per day resulted in declining depressive symptoms and loneliness. So what do we do? Because the reality is that social media is here to stay. It's not going anywhere. It kind of drives too much of our life, too much of the economy even. Much of life is driven by an online connection, and so we're going to be online. We have to use our phones. We use our phones in some form or fashion just to log on to our computers here at school. A big part of the information we gain about things that are happening around us are social media driven. There's a lot of convenience that's tied to an online connection. So those pros and cons are going to exist with that. But there are some steps that we can take simple steps that can really help us navigate how we interact with social media if it's going to be part of our life. So I offer three suggestions for you. Take inventory of your own use, then consider the changes you need to make, and then make the changes. Get started now. It's really pretty simple when we look at it. So as you take inventory of your own use, how much time do you spend on a social media platform? Evaluate it. You have a great little thing on your phone, your iPhone especially, that can track your screen time. It can tell you exactly how long you spent on a platform. So I'll give you a personal example with this on how our own efforts to estimate it just don't work. So when TikTok first came out, I worked in another capacity here around the university with college students. A lot of my students were on TikTok. So I downloaded the app to check it out because I wanted to know what they were looking at. And so I got on it. My wife was out of town, so it was just me at the house. And so I just was laying there in my bed, and I just was looking at TikToks. And so I'll look at this about 10 minutes to check it out. And I just kept going. I said, I need to go to sleep, go to bed. So I stopped the app, got out of it, and then looked at my phone. And I went to bed about 11 o'clock, and it was 2 a.m. 2 a.m. I'm ashamed to admit it. But I lay there for 3 hours scrolling, had no realization that I've done that. Just got so caught up in the interaction, the entertainment, the things, just ridiculous. I immediately delete the app. I don't have it at all. And so, but you need to take inventory of how, how much time you're spending on it. If time is the thing that's really indicating our well-being on social media, then we have to consider how much time we're spending on it, and then how many platforms are you on. I was surprised that some people are, the average is 7. For me, I think I have accounts on 3, but I'm just surprised by that. So look at how many apps you're spending time on, and then how is your time spent. So here's the thing: the mindless scrolling, or are you mindlessly scrolling? Or are you interacting meaningfully? So that was the thing, that was the high that was creating this neurological high for us, was the constant scrolling. Getting out of the loop of just feeding the high is important. Are you just mindlessly scrolling? Are you interacting meaningfully? Social media can have its advantages and be helpful if you're using it in meaningful ways to actually connect with people. But if you're just mindlessly scrolling, then you're just feeding a high. So are you actually connecting with someone or looking for needed information? Are you doing something that's helpful, meaningful for your life, helpful for your well-being? Yeah. So monitor your mood before and after social media use. Do you feel the difference? So I no longer have social media on my phone. The only time I interact with it is directly through a computer. I just set up emails for messaging notifications. Someone messaged me directly, I'll get an email, and then I go look at it. So I did that this summer, and it was 2 things. I did notice a change in my mood, in the sense that I just kind of felt better. I wasn't thinking about things that I saw on social media, and that's what it was. I had spent, I didn't spend a ton of time, but when I did scroll or did look, my mind would be filled with just different things that either bothered me or helped me on social media. And so those things were just no longer there. So I definitely felt better, but also discover how often I reached in my pocket, pulled my phone out just to look. And when I took everything off, I would look at my phone, and I was literally do this. I just look at my phone. It's like, well, I got nothing to look at. I can clean out my email again, but I had nothing to look at. And so it really showed me how often I was doing that. And so now I just don't, and slowly getting out of the habit out of that. But monitor your own mood, before and after use. Is it significantly impacting you? And with all of this, it's an honest evaluation. This is up to you to do. So it's an honest evaluation of whether or not you look at this objectively and see if it's affecting you. So then consider the changes that you make. So based on the evaluation you make, what kind of changes or adjustments do you need to make? Are you spending more than 1 hour per day? That's the threshold. So in your evaluation, are you spending more than 1 hour? And if so, how do you need to address the time you're spending on social media? Can you cut back? I would think most of us can. I think there's very few of us in the world today that need to be on social media for more than 2 hours, unless that's just what our job is, so to speak. But I really think you possibly really can, and that it can benefit you if you do so. Should you consider getting off a platform? So should you, after that night, at one time experience with TikTok, not on it. Not on Snapchat. I had 2. I was on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And Twitter was the one I was on the most because I'm a news junkie. And so I'd look for news. And so now that neither are on my phone, I'm not really on them as much. But do you need to be on all the platforms? Can you cut your use by cutting off a platform? And should you change the way you interact with social media? What if you used it only from your computer and not used it from your phone or tablet? So the best way to help me make those changes, I did that at the start of this summer, was just take it off my phone and tablet. I don't have it there. And so now that I created friction between me and actually getting on, because I don't have the apps on my computer, I have to log in to go and do it. There's friction there. And so that friction doesn't make it as convenient or easy to get on. And so because of that, I hardly get on. If I get an email that has a notification with a message I need to reply to, I go to reply. But I haven't replied to half of those. And so it's just creating a way where there's a little bit of friction that maybe helps you create some distance between its use and your well-being. And then start now. So don't wait for the end of the semester. Don't wait for the beginning of the week. Start now. Start with one if you need to. Start making the changes today. Even the small ones are going to be helpful to move you towards a path of being in a position where some of the effects that it is having on people, if you'll make some changes, you can guard yourself from some of those things. So possible suggestions: limit your time on social media that's not associated with work or school. So get it down to under 1 hour and limit your time. Make sure the time is active. So when you are on social media, stay out of the endless scrolling loop, feeding that neurological high. Make sure you're sending messages, replying to messages, interacting with the group, doing something that's more active, looking for pertinent information, helpful information for you. Keep it active and not just the mindless scroll. Yeah, no mindless scrolling. That's the big thing. The other thing is put away all screens 45 minutes to 1 hour before bed. There's a whole nother presentation I could do on this right here on the effects that screen use has on your sleep. And there's all kinds of studies out there suggesting, most of the research is saying at least 1 hour, 45 minutes to 1 hour before you go to bed, turn off all screens. So go read a real book, listen to music on the radio, I don't know, not on your phone. Just stay away from the screens in a way so you're not experiencing some of the sleep disturbances that are caused by the blue light and the screen light with it. So here's the thing, everyone's use is going to be different. All right, so these studies looked at a host of things, and so everyone's use is going to be different. The important thing is for you to do an evaluation to determine how it's affecting you. The reality is that it's going to have impact, and it is having impact. The correlations are real clear. They're not direct causals, but it's definitely strong correlations that say this has impact on our mental health. And so for every person listening and here today, it's going to be different for you. It's important for you to evaluate what that looks like and for you to make the changes that are most helpful for you. For me, it's just staying off of them as much as I can. I'm just a great place mindset. I don't have to worry about some of the crazy, stupid things that I would worry about because I saw it on social media. They're just not there. Maybe ignorance bliss, maybe that's what that is. I don't know. But I think overall, I haven't missed much. I haven't. Somebody needs me, they can find me pretty easily. Not keeping up with everyone's life in such a way, I haven't missed much. But I think I'm in a better mental health space because of some of those changes. But the changes are different for all of us. But you have to evaluate and really look at it. So take the information that you've heard and some of the things that tell us what is happening and going on with our minds and with our mental health as a result of using social media, and take it seriously. Because I don't think we're going to see anything change unless we as the consumer take action and to do things differently. Okay? Negative effects are clear, they're there. So make the changes that are going to benefit your mental health. So that's all I have for it. Right there is my contact information. That's my email. If you'd like a PDF of this presentation, because it has all the research cited in it. Some of the slides will have links connected to them so that you can go directly to them. Not all of them will, but they're all cited in such a way that you should be able to find the research if you're interested in following up with some of that. So that's all I have, unless there's questions. Any questions here or questions online? Yes, yeah. Judy, you see that again? Yeah, let me find it one more time. Yes, ma'am.
So my question would be, I mean, I didn't know we mentioned the effects you have on men by their perception. So in your research, you're finding the reason why we should have a certain measure of that sooner. I know the measuring page for a while now.
Yeah, I think part of the reason is we're just now is probably as early as 2013 and 14, wondering about the effects of social media, to the point now that we're actually seeing effects of social media. And so I think we're just going to continue to see it garnered up. A research is going to be my guess at this point, that we'll just see more and more of it happening and taking place, and we'll dive further into specific populations of it. There's a lot of research out there that talks specifically about teenage girls for 14, 15, 16 and up, and its effect on them as being one of the biggest areas of concern, where depressive symptoms, anxiety, social anxiety are developing within that population in just epidemic kind of proportions. That say that. I showed the men's study because I thought it was interesting that there's just not a lot about that, and so it is having the same effect regardless of gender, I think. But I think there are some developmental things that are happening, going on, especially in the teenage years, with females, that make them more susceptible to some of the things that are happening and taking place on social media. Not to say that's the only place. Teenage boys are probably having the same struggles with it, but we're seeing it. Yeah. And I think it's, now we have, so the first generation of kids that have basically grown up on an iPhone or with the iPhone around, leading into the next generation that have grown up on social media. So the first generation grown up with the iPhone present around. In other words, they don't necessarily remember life outside the iPhone. They're starting to have children. So, I think we're going to see more type of effects with that, and then we're fixing to have another probably 3 to 4 years. We'll have, probably 26, 27. We'll start seeing a large number of people that have grown up with social media around. In other words, they don't remember life outside of social media. They'll start having children. So they'll move into more adulthood, and we'll begin to see the long range effects of this, if there are any. My guess is there will be. I think one of the things that I'm finding and seeing in my own experience of even just seeing practicum students when I was at the counseling center and doing practicum at the base right now, I think screen use, especially with social media use, will probably be something that has to start being assessed in intake. That's something I'm guessing. I wonder about, and I think that's something that can probably be beneficial in helping people understand what might be happening with an individual. And it's not that screen use or social media is causing every mental health thing that's out there, but I think it's something that the mental health community may have to start screening in some way, to ask the questions of what's happening and going on with their screen use, and could that be a correlation or something that's contributing? It may not be the cause, but could it be contributing to what's happening and going on? Any other questions? Any questions online? Sorry, her original. Sorry, I didn't see that, Anna. Her original question was about research and seeing, why we're just not seeing the research come out the way it is. I think I'm getting it right. Yeah, regarding men specifically. Has research related to gambling been compared to mindless scrolling activities? Oh, that's a good question. I don't know. I don't know. I bet it has. That that neurological high was about the change from one thing to the next, and so when gambling, probably especially with the slot machine, or just the high that comes from the anticipation of winning, that is very, very likely, very similar principle, I think. Yes, sir.
Is there any way to prevent it? Because we only do the research after we can see the effect. How can we prevent it? Especially after the data.
Yeah, I think that's the problem with prevention, is that we don't know we need to prevent something until something happens. And so that's usually part of what drives a lot of prevention mentality, is that something's happened. So now we got to do something to keep that from happening.
So what happens?
Yeah. And so part of what we do to address social media is it begins with the individual and the individual change. I think social media companies are becoming more aware, but they've been forced to become aware. There's been a lot of whistleblower activity taking place within Facebook, especially, where it's come out that they've known of the effects that their algorithms have on people to keep them involved and keep them engaged. And so that's the whole principle behind some of the stuff you do on Facebook and Instagram and TikTok. The things you interact with create an algorithm, a pattern to where you start seeing it again. So I don't know if you've done this. I've searched something on Amazon, and then my wife has gotten on Facebook using the same computer and seen an advertisement for the very thing we were searching on Amazon. Right. Yeah. So there's also a mentality, just we need to work on our mentality about what it means to be connected and the quality of those connections. And so, are we really connected because I have all my friends and followers on my Instagram or my Snapchat or my real life, whatever it is you have right now? Am I really connecting with people in that fashion? So there may be a thing to that may play a role, but is the quality of that connection enough to risk my own mental health in such a way as to constantly be interacting with these things? I say no. Yes, ma'am.
Does the number of followers or friends on social media?
So there are some studies out there that talk, and I didn't cite these that talk about that the number of likes has that similar effect of the neurological high. Then I get on there, I get the number of likes, then I'm looking for a want, then my mood goes up. If I don't, if my picture only gets so many, my mood goes down. So there's definitely a correlation between being able to see that. And that's the interaction part. That's this idea of connecting. People like your photo, so I'm connecting. Well, this is the way I want to connect with people, by getting likes. Well, now that I'm not getting those likes, my mood drops. So,
there's a reason human action. It would be also.
Yeah.
We gotta keep posting it.
Yeah. It creates a whole validation in that. So sorry, I got too many messages. So the question was, would we be able to get an honest estimate of screen time from our clients on intake? How would you know if it was reliable or not? So in any intake, and Mark, you can speak to this, you're really asking for self-report anyway. And so your hope is that they're being forthright and honest about what they're saying, their condition is, or what's happening and going on. So your hope is that they would be there. Now, would people not tell the truth about it? Yes. I think I've had clients in my own experience at the counseling center where you get through a session or you're getting through several sessions and discover, oh, they haven't been entirely honest about what's going on or what's happening. So I think that's the case. So I think for some people, no, you're not going to get that at all. They're not going to be honest about it because they don't know, honestly, because they probably don't. We haven't. We're the poorest estimators about how we use our time, unless we're actually tracking and watching it. With social media, I don't think we are. A good question, though. Any others? Any others online? Yes, thank you. Again, I think I'll throw my email. Let me throw my email up there one more time, so that if you want to get a PDF of the slideshow, I'm happy to send it to you. We have been recording, so hopefully that's going to turn out well, and we'll be able to share that that'll go on the Counseling Center's YouTube page eventually at some point. Mark, is there anything else? All right. Well, if there's nothing else, I want to thank you online for watching and participating. I hope you found it helpful. And if I can answer any additional questions or you want to follow up on the data, feel free to email me. You have it now. And I'm happy to continue the discussion. There's a lot more out there, a lot more to it. So wonderful. Thanks so much.